students, I hope you're fine. Today we're gonna have the supply and demand. I'm talking here about the supply. We talked in the previous video, we talked about the demand, and now we're gonna and the demand, the quantity demanded, and we talked about the shift in the demand curve. So today we're gonna talk about what the supply. The supply. What does it mean? The supply. The supply here is the desire. For the consumer, no. For the producer, and the ability to produce a certain quantity of the good at a certain price at a given period of time, of course. So, the law of supply states that the quantity of goods supplied is directly related to the goods price. Directly related to the goods price, yeah. So this is here, it's opposite to the demand here low, because we said before the law of demand, when the price increases, so we're not going to buy anything, so it means that, or we're gonna decrease our demand. So here it was before the law of demand, it was here inversely, it was here opposite relationship, but here it's directly relationship. So when the price is getting higher and higher, so as a producer I have the motive and I have the incentive to, yes, to supply more and more, because I'm seeking as a producer for what? For the profits. So in other words, we can say also quantity supplied rises as prices rises, and quantity supplied falls as prices fall. So if the price is falling and falling, so I'm not going to supply more. So economists here record the supply on a supply schedule, right, and plot it on a graph. It's called supply curve. It's the same like the demand curve, but with some changes. So no panic at all. We have here the supply schedule. The supply schedule is a table. We have here a table. Let's plot the quantity also, but this time the quantity that's supplied of a good, for example, any good X. And a producer will produce at different prices. As we see, we have here different prices. Okay, so what happened here? Supply schedule can be represented by using also the graph. So we have tables and we have also what? And we have also graph. So we represent the price of the good on the vertical axis. So this is our price. And we have here the quantity supplied, this time on the horizontal axis. Let's see the graph together and what happened. But before going to the graph, let's analyze and interpret this table. We have here the price of the good is $2 here dollars, for example, and the quantity supplied is just 1. When the price increased to be 4, so the quantity supplied is 3. It's increasing. Here I have another increase. I have here it's from 4 to 6, so the price increased. And I have also here the quantity of this good increased, and so on. So this what we are talking about, when the supply price or the price of the good increase, so the quantity supplied will increase. The supply curve here, I'm talking about when I talk about the change in price, so I mean that the quantity supplied is going to change. This means the quantity supplied change. I'm not talking about the supply curve that will change its place. No, I'm talking I'm talking about the quantity supplied. So the price here is and I have here the supply curve. Here this is a graphic representation, of course, of the relationship between the price and what the quantity supplied, of course. So as we see here, I have here a direct relationship. Price and quantity supplied vary directly. The supply curve is upward sloping, as we see here the sloping, okay, and so on and so on. As price increases, quantity supplied increase. Okay, so movements along the supply curve versus shifts in supply. So I am having here what quantity supplied. I'm talking about here the movements along the supply curve. So I'm talking about here the supply curve, this is the supply curve from one point to another point, quantity supplied. What about here, this one? It refers, and we said that the quantity supplied refers to specific amount that will be supplied per unit of time at specific price. Other things should be constant. It refers to specific point on the supply curve, as we said. Change in prices causes the changes in quantity supplies, and it's now very obvious. A change in price causes movement along the supply curve. I'm not shifting from curve to curve. I'm talking about what? I'm talking about here the supply curve. What happens on this curve? The changes here for on the points of the curve. Okay, this means I'm having something like the demand here, the shift in the supply curve. Yes, we can have shift in the supply curve. Okay, so before going to the shift in supply curve, let's see this curve. Movement along the supply curve. I'm talking about change in prices, of course. Change in price causes movement along the supply curve. So I'm having here, okay, so I'm having here changes here from B to C. What happened? Okay, as the price, it was $50, so this will change, the price changed it from point B to point C. The price increased, the price here increased by $30. So the increase in this price affected the quantity supplied by the producer. He wants to have more and more profit, so it changed, increased from 4.1 to 4.3 on here, C point. Okay, guys, easy one, I think it is. What happened in the shifts in the supply curve? Okay, I'm talking here about what? I'm talking here about some factors that will affect my curve other than, not except the price. So the factors are anything that we're going to talk about except the price of the good. Why price of the good? I'm talking about quantity supplied or demanded. But when I talk about the shifts in the supply curve, the curve itself, I'm not talking about the price. Let's have this one, very easy one. Change in the supply represented by shifting of the supply curve to the left or to the right. Okay, the supply curve shifted due to some factors except the price of the good. Important factors of supply, that includes what? Productivity. So I'm talking to here the productivity of your product. Technology, the technology, of course, is here a very good factor that affects my supply curve. When you have more and more technology, it increases your productivity and it increases here your supply. Costs of factors of production, the costs here of the factors of production. Taxes imposed on the good, so the taxes and the subsidies given to the producers of the goods. So when we talk about the causes that shift the supply curve to the right, so it means here increase in the supply. When I go to the right, I will increase of the supply. Go to the right, where? On the curve, guys, on the graph. So productivity, when I have a very good productivity, very high productivity, so the increase, this will affect the supply, will increase, of course. Technology, if you have more and more technology in your in producing your product or any goods you are dealing with, so I'm having here increase in the supply. Of course, the subsidies, as a government, I'm helping you, I'm facilitating for you your production, your production of the certain goods you're producing. So I'm going to increase my supply and I'm increase. The taxes are low. If I'm putting as a government on you just little or minimized taxes, so you're gonna increase your supply. Costs of production are low. Costs of production, the transportation, the cost of producing your product. So if your costs of production are low, so I'm going to increase my supplies. This means that shifting the supply curve to the right. Causes of shifting the supply curve to the left, I'm talking about here decreasing the supply. Productivity, if your productivity is not high, so this means that I will decrease decrease in the supply. I have low technology. I will also decrease here in the supply. Subsidies, I'm not having any encouragement or helping from the government, so I'm going to decrease this have decrease in the supply. I'm having higher and higher taxes, so I will decrease in supply. Costs of production are very high, then the price will be very then I'm having here a decrease in supply. Shifting these all factors will shift the supply curve to the left. So the shifting of the supply curve is illustrated by the following figure I have here. This figure, as we see, the price is what? Remember, the price in the shifting of curves is always here constant. Okay, doesn't change. The quantity supplied will be changed here according to the factors that we mentioned before, the 5 factors here. So I have here the quantity, we have here the quantity, and I have here what happened to this. Okay, I have here quantity here, quantity 0, and I have here the price. So at quantity here, this S0, or we can say this supply curve, this is the main supply curve. What happened to this curve to be S1? When I shift to the right, I have increase, of course, or in supply. When it shifted to the left, so it has here decrease in the supply. So that what happened. Okay, guys. Okay, let's talk about something very, 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 very interesting thing, which is equilibrium. So this what really happened in the real market. When I talk about equilibrium, as the suppliers and the demanders, they meet at a certain point. So we can buy. So you are satisfied with this price as a supplier, and I'm satisfied at this. We have here the voluntary exchange for money and goods together as consumers and producers. So let's talk about this. Equilibrium is a concept in which opposing dynamic forces cancel each other out. Okay, this means that in the free market, the forces of supply and demand interact to determine. So we are talking here about the free market. So we have here the voluntary here, and we have here the full authority to interact with each other as consumers and producers. Remember that equilibrium quantity, the amount bought and sold at equilibrium price. When I'm talking about the equilibrium quantity, I'm talking about which quantity, amount bought and sold at equilibrium price. I'm talking here about the equilibrium price toward which the invisible hand drives the market. So this is what I'm talking about. What invisible hand drives the market? This is the price. Let's see together. So we have here, and if we have here something called equilibrium, so it must here to have something called disequilibrium. So what's disequilibrium this time? It exists when the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied are not equal at a certain price. Of course, it happens. So when we have something like this, we have excess of supply and excess of demand. So I'm having excess of supply. Yeah, when I'm talking about here excess of supply, I'm talking about what? Surplus quantity supplied are greater than, or is greater than, the quantity demanded. What about here if I have something called excess demand? This means shortage, quantity demanded greater than the quantity supplied. So price adjust. What about this term? Price adjust, and it tend to do what? It tend to solve itself. Okay, solve the problem. So price adjusts and tend to rise when there is an excess of demand. So when we have excess on demand, I want here at this point, very important point, the demanded quantity, okay, is greater than that is greater than the supply. So the demand here is greater than what? The demand here is greater than the quantity supplied. So the price, what should happen to the price? The price will increase. What happened in this one? The price will increase. Why? To make the suppliers more satisfied, to give us or to produce more, what? To produce more quantities. That's why this is called here the shortage. So where we talked about this to reach the equilibrium. So let's have it here. It will be more obvious here. You say we don't like graphs, but by using the graphs, the graphs will show us what we are talking about in more obvious and clear way. This is the importance of the graphs in this part. The interaction of supply and demand graph here. We have here, as we see, let's have it very, very simple, in a simple way. I have here the supply curve, the red one, and I have here the demand curve, the blue one. So this is the supply and this is my demand. Okay. When I have here at this point P1, let's talk about P1. P1, what does it mean, P1? The price 1. This is here the price axis and this is the here quantity axis. Okay, at price 1, whatever price this price is, at price 1, let's have this one. I will go here. It will be at price 1 and go down to see here what quantity and quantity 0. At price 1 and quantity 0, we have what? The price here is very high and the supply also very high, right? But we can see that this is the demand curve, the blue one at this point, right or not? So what do you think, guys? We have here what? We have here an excess of the supply. I have more supply, more than the demanded one. I have here more quantity supplied than what? The demanded one. So this part, let's have this is again, this part, the excess supply. I'm having here what? When I have the excess supply, surplus. I'm having here surplus. Okay, let's see this point, which is at price 0, and it's not here like 0, but it's donated by this number. It means here, let it be like A or B or C, whatever, or X, Y, whatever letter. So at this price, A, for example, let's have here to see. Tick, 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 tick. And so this is what? And at price, okay, we said this at price, I need this one. At price P0, this one, let it be like A, and this is B, and this is C. At A, we will go here, this is A, okay, and this is P0. Okay, we will see that we are having what? On the blue graph, curve, on the blue curve, I'm having here what? The quantity demanded, until we have here a lot of quantity demanded, right? Okay, but can we see here the supply curve? It reached here until this. It reached here until this. So when I am having here, can you see this one? Okay, so what I'm having here, what I'm really having here, I'm having here excess demand. I'm having here excess in the demand. Okay, it's the demand here is greater than the supply. So I'm having what? I'm having shortage. What should we do at this problem? Excess demand, we said, causes upward pressure on price. Why? Let's see why. I want to show you something. when I'm having here excess demand, okay, and I'm over the or more than what I'm having here excess demand at this point, over what, over the supply. So I will have a pressure on the prices to get up. So the price should get up or increase to reach the equilibrium point. What's the equilibrium point? Where the supply and the demand curves will meet at a point or at a certain price where the suppliers and the demanders will agree to have the process of buying and selling at this very important point of pricing. Okay, guys, so when I'm having here excess of the demand, so the price will do what? Will increase of the product. Okay, what if I'm having here shortage? What if I'm having here not shortage of supply, I'm having here surplus? What if I'm having here surplus? What will happen to the price? So if you're having surplus from the supply quantity, I'm going to what to do what I'm going to decrease the price of the product. For example, if I'm here buying, if I'm here selling as a producer, if I'm selling strawberries, and people are not willing, because they have the full authority and the full here control, voluntary here exchange, they are not willing to buy the strawberry at this price, and they want to show you at this price, at this high price. So if I'm not going to sell them nowadays, the strawberry will be ruined, right? Because it has time and it will ruin. So I have to do what? I have to lower my price to reach this pricing point to meet here the demand. Okay, so this causes here what? This causes that the price will have a pressure on the price to be reduced. Change in equilibrium, shifts in supply and demand, shifts in either supply or demand, change equilibrium price. An increase in demand, when I increase in demand, I have increase in the demand, or decrease in the supply. So increase in demand, this means that we are having what? This means that we are having it creates here excess demand at the original equilibrium price. Excess demand increases price until a higher equilibrium price is reached, as we mentioned. And here vice versa, we have here decrease in the demand and increase in supply. So they have to do what? I'm having here create excess supply, it means surplus at the original equilibrium point. Excess supply decrease the price, of course, until a new lower equilibrium price is reached, as we said, and very obvious one, I think so. A decrease in the supply, what happens here? What are you talking about? Let's have this one. I'm having here the price and the quantity, as we see. This is the price and this is the quantity. I'm having here what? This is supply and demand. Okay, this is the supply curve and demand curve. Supply curve, the black one. Okay, this what happened, the black one, that's what happened, because I have a decrease. Let's see this one. Okay, so this is, as I said, this is what happened. What happened here? Why? I have here, let's have it, we have here the price and we have here the quantity, and I'm having a supply curve. So the supply curve is 0, and I have here this supply curve and the demand curve, the blue one. So the black one and the blue one. Okay, so this is the supply and this is what the demand. What happened here? When I am having here at point, okay, I want to show you at point at the price 0, I'm having here this interaction or this point, okay, at this point. Q0, price 0 with Q0. Okay, the quantity here was, as we see here, Q0. And what happened when the price increased? What happened when the price increased? So I'm having here what? The price increased to this point. So I'm having here a shift. Okay, let's see this shift together. A shift from S0 to S1. A shift from S0 to S1. So the new point is here. As we see, the new point of equilibrium is here. So at this point of equilibrium, okay, so the quantity of what happened to the quantity here? It here decreased. The decrease in the supply generates here excess in demand. When I decrease the supply, the demand will excess. Price will increase until a new higher equilibrium price is reached. Okay, I want to re-explain this in other words. I want to be sure that you understand this. I'm having here a decrease in supply. Okay, a decrease of supply. I'm talking about what? The shift of the curves. So I'm talking here, what do you think of the change in price first, or I'm not talking about the change of a price? It's not as a factor here. The factor here other than the change of price, because we said when I'm talking about the shift of the supply curves, I'm not talking about the price as a factor. For example, the technology, I'm not having a technology here. Okay, so what will happen if it happens here? Decrease in the supply. So I'm starting here in the decrease of the supply. So decrease of the supply from quantity 0 to quantity 1. So I'm talking here like this. So when I change it here from this point to this point, so I'm changing here. I want to reach what? What happened here? It happened here that the price increased to reach this equilibrium point. Why? Because the quantity here demanded will increase, will be more than the supplied, more than the supplied. So when I'm having here this problem, the price will increase. This will lead to an increase of the supply. Okay, guys, a decrease in the demand. What happened here? The last thing, then we're gonna have here the summary, and we're gonna have the next session how to calculate some calculations about this in very easy one. Don't be afraid. So a decrease in demand. So I'm here talking about first the price. No, of course not. I'm talking about here, when I talk about the shift of the curves of demand or supply, I'm talking about here the factors. So whatever happened and caused a decrease in the demand. Okay, so if the demand decreased, as we see here, let's have the marker. So when the demand decreased from this point to this point, this is the demand. What happened here? So I'm talking about, I'm shifting from this point to this point. Okay, so what happened to the price? What do you think? The price, what happened to it? I'm having here lower price to reach this equilibrium new point. So a decrease in the demand generates here excess supply, then the price will decrease until new lower equilibrium price is reached. This is not to, if we are having a strawberry, for example, so the decrease in demand, what happens here when I have decrease in demand? So the producer he wants to to sell all the strawberries he has, right? Because otherwise it will be ruined and he will lose everything. So he must do what? He must decrease and decrease in the prices, so he can reach here new equilibrium price, and he can sell the goods he have. So this is the chapter summary. The law of demand states what and what. The law of supply states what. Factors that affect supply and demand. Importance here, other than, remember, other than the price, and this is very important to mention. The shifts here factors. Important demand shift factors include society's income, price of other goods, tastes, expectations, and I want to tell you how can expectation here influence my, because if you as a supplier, as a demander, if you know that the price of the milk will be decreased after a while, so shall I now buy something or delay? I will delay, not just for milk here, for, we can say, for clothes, for example, or for electronics, if you know, or for cars, if you know that your desired car, the price of your desired car will get lower and lower after 3 months, so you will wait. Okay, taxes, subsidies, and to consumers. Important supply shift factors include price of inputs, technology, expectations, taxes, and subsidies to producers. So change in quantity demanded, and we have talked about the change in demand, and when quantity demand equals the quantity supply to equilibrium, and prices have no tendency to change when we have equilibrium. But when quantity demanded is greater than the quantity supplied, prices tend to rise and rise. When quantity supplied greater than the quantity demanded, prices tend to fall and fall. When the demand curve shifts to the right, so to the right or to the left, equilibrium prices rises, declines, and equilibrium quantity rises, and so on. Okay, guys, I hope you understood this. We will have another last here section about this chapter. Thank you. Bye bye.